Chapter 574, A Promise to Fight. Zhang Yi felt a little puzzled after listening to Bai Li Changqing's explanation. It turned out that he had suffered an unjustified disaster. Ha! He gave a faint smile, as if he was a little speechless, but there was no way he could really argue with that kind of childish man. Anyway, as long as he doesn't come over and cause trouble for me, that's fine. As for what he thinks of me, that's his own problem. Bai Li Changqing shrugged, but he deliberately wanted to clear up the misunderstanding between Zhang Yi and Wu Di. So he said, I think you can talk more, and maybe you'll find that he's actually a very nice person. It's just that occasionally his head is a bit too simple. Bai Li Changqing said, and then asked the waitress to bring Wu Di in. The waitress still went forward and opened the door to the private room. Soon, Wu Di walked in. He was dressed in black casual clothes, with his hands in his pockets, looking like a mischievous teenager. However, the once stylish black hair had turned gray. This was a consequence of the battle against Genos. But looking at him like this, he actually looked more handsome and charming. When he saw Zhang Yi, there was not the slightest trace of surprise in his eyes. Instead, his gaze was bright and resolute, and he came straight towards him. Zhang Yi, I guessed you would definitely come looking for Captain Bai Li. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Having said this, both Zhang Yi and Bai Li Changqing felt that something was wrong. Wu Di came here for Zhang Yi. Bai Li Changqing hurriedly asked, Xiao Wu, what are you doing? You should understand that the captain's death has little to do with Zhang Yi. And if it weren't for him, we might all have to answer for it in Tianhai City. Zhang Yi's gaze was a little cold, and he never left Wu Di's body, preventing the kid from suddenly attacking him. Wu Di gritted his teeth and looked at Zhang Yi with a sinister smile. Who said that the captain's death had nothing to do with him? If it wasn't for him persuading the captain to use the ice soul, the captain would have at least a few months to live. During that time, he could at least go home and see his wife and son one last time, and spend some time with them. And this happiness was taken away from him. Zhang Yi did not refute this either. He admitted that the only thing he was not kind about in this matter was being unfair to Bian Junwu. But he also gave Bian Junwu the main credit for Tianhai City as compensation, so that his family would have a worry-free life for the rest of their lives. Using Bian Junwu's few months of life to exchange for military merit that could protect the happiness of his family for half a lifetime, although he did not ask Bian Junwu for his opinion, it was generally a fair deal. But Zhang Yi did not feel the slightest bit of guilt towards Wu Di and Bai Li Changqing. Because they, like Zhang Yi, were all people with vested interests. If you're here to find fault, I'm not interested in playing along. Zhang Yi got up from the sofa and turned to leave, planning to go back to the apartment and rest. Who knew that Wu Di suddenly reached out and stopped Zhang Yi in front of him? Wait a minute, I hardly see you today, and I won't let you get away so easily. Zhang Yi looked at the arm in front of him blocking his way, and a murderous gleam gradually appeared in his eyes. You want to fight me? Bai Li Changqing was also anxious. He didn't even know how strong Zhang Yi was at this time. Although Wu Di was a genius, it was difficult for him to compete with Zhang Yi. Wu Di, don't be impulsive. The side team chose to use Ice Spirit on their own, and you can't blame Zhang Yi for this. Wu Di smiled, but his eyes were cold as he looked at Zhang Yi. I know. But the thought that the boss died in Tianhai City makes me feel resentful. Zhang Yi, before he died, the boss kept saying that he admired your abilities. And he intended to recruit you to become one of us. That's why I've always wanted to fight you to test just how strong you really are. I didn't have the chance before, but now you and I are both free. So I want to fight you. Zhang Yi couldn't help but cover his head. Since you already know that I'm not primarily responsible for Bian Junwu's death, why are you here to fight me? Wu Di grinned and said, I just want to prove that I am stronger than you and more worthy of Boss Bian's expectations. Bai Li Changqing's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Wu Di, don't be impulsive. Right now, you are no match for him at all. Wu Di, however, said with a smile, we'll have to fight to find out. He looked at Zhang Yi next to him and said, I already figured out your abilities when I was in Tianhai City. Of course, you also know my abilities. So the fight between the two of us will be very fair. Moreover, he was certain of one thing. That was that Zhang Yi would not reveal his true strength in Blizzard City. At most, he would only show the level of strength he had before absorbing Gen Kokuyo's strength. Just fight me with your original strength. Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. What's the point of such a fight? I can't think of any reason to fight you. Zhang Yi would only fight for his own survival. He is not a person who likes to fight recklessly. Just because Wu Di has a stubborn belief in his heart, he wants to have a fight in Blizzard City, which obviously does not match his style of doing things. There is no reason at all, Wu Di said with a smile as he looked at Zhang Yi. It's just because this is Blizzard City, my home court. If you don't agree to my request for a duel, I'm going to take advantage of being a local resident and make things difficult for you. There was a hint of threat in Wu Di's tone. As a member of the investigation team, it would not be difficult for him to cause trouble for Zhang Yi. He seemed to have a firm grasp on Zhang Yi's character and was unwilling to cause trouble in Blizzard City. Sure enough, Zhang Yi's gaze became solemn, and the look in his eyes at Wu Di also revealed a murderous gleam. You are playing with fire. Bai Li Changqing also said, Wu, you should stop now. Wu Di firmly shook his head. Captain Bai Li, although you are the captain, you can only boss me around when we are on a mission. I must do this, otherwise I will always have this obsession in my heart. So please don't bother me today. He gritted his teeth and stared dead-eyed at Zhang Yi. So, do you accept my request for a duel? Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. He could feel the madness and fervor in Wu Di's eyes. This guy is an avid lunatic. Zhang Yi understood that if he did not accept this duel today, Wu Di would do something he did not know. So Zhang Yi's mouth slightly raised. Well, since you want to have some fun, I'll fight with you. But then, Zhang Yi held up a finger, but the initiative cannot be all in your hands. Let me also propose a condition. At the very least, we need to add some excitement to this duel. He hadn't seen such a fool for a long time. But he couldn't fight this duel for free, and he had to fleece Wu Di a bit. Chapter 575, The Stakes Facing the Aggressive Wu Di. Zhang Yi also became a little angry. Although he didn't want to fight meaningless battles, it was necessary to teach this person who didn't know his place a lesson. After all, he was not someone who always endured. However, he could not fight this fight for nothing. When Zhang Yi agreed to fight him, Wu Di's eyes flashed with excitement. You agreed? Ha ha, good. As for the prize, you name it, what do you want? Zhang Yi thought for a moment and pointed at Wu Di and said, I am only interested in weapons and armor. Jiangnan region is so technologically advanced, I am sure it is also exceptional in terms of equipment. Zhang Yi had a deeper plan in mind. He had come this time with Liu Karen. As long as he was given a sample of the best equipment, Liu Karen would have the opportunity to replicate it. Therefore, even though Zhang Yi was not an expert in weapons himself, he still made such a request. Wu Di frowned. You want weapons? Oh, it's not impossible. But for people like you and me, foreigners, external things like weapons don't mean much. Bai Li Changqing helplessly covered his forehead. Wu Di really had no idea about the weapons in Blizzard City. Many weapons were highly classified. Although they were very convenient to use in normal times, they were definitely not allowed to fall into the wrong hands. For example, the source bombs and the black battle suits they usually wore. He came forward with a worried warning, don't get worked up, both of you. A simple sparring session is fine, but don't get angry. Otherwise, I won't just stand by and watch. As for the stakes of the game, Zhang Yi, do you have a weapon you're good with? You can forget about thermal weapons, but I can get you a cold weapon. Zhang Yi was speechless. A cold weapon? He is most adept at using guns, and cold weapons are at best used for self-defense, and he has not used them even a few times so far. Even the Longming made of adamantium, he has always given it to Liang Yu to use whenever there is a major battle. It is still on Liang Yu's body right now. Bai Li Changqing saw Zhang Yi's unusual expression and quickly said with a smile, Don't worry, we won't fool you with junk. Our Black Robe Squad's arsenal has quite a few good things. For example, you have heard of weapons made of adamantium, right? Adamantium? Zhang Yi was very familiar with this material. It was the same material Liang Yu's Longming was made of. Unfortunately, according to Lu Karen, this material was extremely rare and ordinary people simply couldn't get their hands on it. But for the investigation team in the Jiangnan region, this material would not be scarce at all. Zhang Yi's eyes became slightly more fervent. He would need to have a weapon of his own for self-defense. I like using knives. Bai Li Changqing had already opened a transparent floating screen in front of Zhang Yi. On the light blue screen, images of weapons appeared one after the other. Bai Li Changqing reached out and scratched on it, and immediately a variety of weapons appeared in front of Zhang Yi. The weapons we use every day are made of Edelman metal. These are the standard weapons for the investigation team. You can pick one you like, and don't mention anything about good luck or bad luck, I'll just give it to you. Bai Li Changqing said to Zhang Yi with a smile. For aliens, the dependence on weapons is not particularly high. Unless you are an alien who is good at weapons, or a weapon expert who values this more. Among the Black Robe Squad, only Bai Li Changqing is more interested in equipment. Of course, the reason Bai Li Changqing said to give Zhang Yi a weapon is not that Edmund metal weapons are common. He just understood that with Wu Di's current strength, he could not possibly win against Zhang Yi. Rather than making the relationship between the two people stiff, it would be better to do a favor. Zhang Yi was also greatly shocked when he saw the many Edmund metal weapons that Bai Li Changqing displayed. You have to know that Liang Yu's Longming was bestowed upon a certain lady who had defended the senior management of Xinjiang at the time. In other words, this type of weapon is extremely rare. However, within the investigation team, a top-tier combat team in the region, Edelman metal weapons have become commonplace. Wu Di's brows furrowed slightly. Logically speaking, this type of weapon cannot be used by anyone outside the investigation team. Of course, the material formula for Edelman metal is not a state secret, and several world-class countries have mastered its smelting technology. Therefore, as the captain of the Black Robe Squad, Bai Li Changqing's giving Zhang Yi a weapon is not a big deal. This is one of the privileges of being the team leader. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. He didn't want to accept someone else's favor for no reason. No need. Since it's a bet, I'll get it with my strength. He walked over and looked for a while among the many weapons. The shape of these weapons was very strange. Unlike traditional cold weapons, they had a very distinctive cyberpunk metal style. Zhang Yi quickly found a long knife inside. It was a straight knife with a blade of only about 1 meter, much shorter than the Longming used by Liang Yu. It was slightly thicker at the back, probably imitating the shape of the Tang horizontal sword, but with a full sense of modern technology. Zhang Yi thought carefully. He was not a pure outsider who relied solely on weapons to fight, and his strength was weaker than that of the outsiders of the enhancement and orc systems. Therefore, choosing this type of knife, which is more suitable for close combat, is more suitable for him. To put it bluntly, this type of knife is still more suitable for him to use for defensive parries. If there is no need, he will not choose to engage in close combat, let alone engage in hand-to-hand combat with the enemy. Zhang Yi pointed at the horizontal sword and said, "I'll choose it." Bai Li Changqing confirmed it and then smiled as he stored the image of the weapon. However, he still advised, "This is only a sparring match, so I hope you two won't go too far. If necessary, I will intervene." Wu Di said with a smile, "Don't worry, boss. I know what I'm doing. I just need to defeat him, I won't hurt him." He and Zhang Yi did not have any personal grudges against each other. This battle was just for his personal obsession and a certain purpose that could not be told to others. Zhang Yi's mouth slightly curled up, "Same here. It's just that where are we going to fight?" Bai Li Changqing looked at the two of them and saw that the duel could no longer be stopped, so he had to try to make the process as peaceful as possible. So he said, "There is a martial arts arena in Blizzard City that is specially used for training duels. Only there can duels be legally fought. let's go there. Zhang Yi glanced at Wu Di and nodded, saying, okay, let's go over there. Wu Di grinned, his eyes filled with fighting spirit.